Good morning. Call this meeting to order. If we can have a roll call for quorum purposes.
Great, thank you. Member Merritt.
Present.
Member Durrett.
Here.
Member Nylander.
Here.
Dr. Young. Here. And Justice Douglas.
Here. First order of business is public comment, but before we have public comment, just a note as to the governor's executive order.
Sure, thank you, Chair. So just for everybody's information,
I'm sorry. Excuse me, this is the court reporter who's speaking. Can I have you state your name, please?
Of course, this is Tyler Klimas for the record. So we just wanted to highlight before we get started here that given the executive orders from Governor Lombardo to having to deal with new regulations, we're in a little bit of a holding pattern here with any new workshops or any new adoption of regulations or any new proposal of regulations. And we had a couple things in the queue here. It affects a number of different proposals that we had. So, council's reviewing the executive orders. We've got some conversations and further guidance from the governor's office. And so we look forward to providing updates on that when we do have it. Obviously, it affected the Cannabis Advisory Commission meeting last week, as an example. But we do look forward to getting further guidance and then providing that to you, the stakeholders, as well as the board. And Chair, if you'd like to add anything to that, you can.
With that, we'll go ahead with our public comment section of our agenda. Public comment is now open in Las Vegas.
Good morning. My name is Christina Ullman, Christina-Ullman. I'm the co-founder and president of the Chamber of Cannabis, a resident of Las Vegas for 15 years and a market leader for 5 years. Over the past 13 months, Chamber officers and members have delivered over 30 public comments, respectfully asking the board to revise specific regulations that are hindering both businesses and employees. The majority of cannabis professionals have worked tirelessly to stay compliant in an over-regulated industry that has generated hundreds of millions of dollars in tax revenue for Nevada. However, tax generation shouldn't be at the expense of business owners who still do not have access to traditional lending or ordinary tax exemptions. We fully understand that the CCB does not have authorization to change federal and state policy, but you do have authorization to change regulations that are negatively affecting the market and the people's lives who are employed by the cannabis industry. Our business trade organization has shared sensible solutions and given adequate reasons on why and how NCCR should be revised to reduce operating costs, excessive taxes, waste, and unnecessary time paid out for processes that could be simplified and refined. Unfortunately, we have yet to see the board make significant revisions that would result in positive change for the majority of operators and employees. Even after the board hosted a roundtable and you told us you wanted to work closely with the industry and collaborate on concerning matters. Today, chamber members will be suggesting NCCRs that should be revised to support policies and procedures to ensure that the cannabis industry in this state is economically competitive, as stated in NRS 678A.450, a statute that was implemented for the CCB to follow by the Nevada State Legislature, which was voted on by we the people. We respectfully ask that the board consider submitting these regulations to Governor Lombardo's office by May 1st in accordance with the executive order that he issued last Thursday, directing all departments, agencies, board, and commissions to halt the creation of new regulations that requires each to provide a report detailing how its operations can be streamlined, clarified, reduced, or otherwise improved to ensure those regulations provide for the general welfare of the state without unnecessarily inhibiting economic growth. Chairman Douglas, Executive Director Klimas, and board members, you hold the professionals in this industry accountable every day with some of the strictest and cumbersome regulations in the country. Today, we respectfully ask for positive revisions as we see more of our colleagues, who you'll hear from today, and friends getting laid off. It's becoming increasingly concerning and imperative that improved regulations are implemented by this board. Thank you.
Good morning, Director Climas and members of the board. For the record, my name is Davin Homan, Davinhoman. I serve as a board member on the Chamber of Cannabis and also a chair of the Commerce Committee, as well VP of Sales at Aether Gardens, a medical and adult use production and cultivation facility here in Las Vegas. I've been in the industry for 5 years, and I'm here today to respectfully ask you to develop regulations related to NRS 678B.640 and its relation to the fair market value specifically applied to pre-rolls. At $5 a unit, the 15% excise tax represents 75 cents, no matter the size of pre-roll. This represents $340 in taxes per pound, the largest current tax on any cannabis product. As a large-scale operator in Nevada and having spoken to a strong majority of the other large-scale operators in Nevada, consistently speaking, pre-rolls are sold for under $5. So when looking at the data set that we don't really have access to, we don't know which ones are outliers, which ones are not, which ones are sub-outliers, and which ones are not. So competing against the traditional market is extremely challenging when the fixed market value is $5 and it hasn't changed in 4 years, though the market has compressed. Though tourism is up, gaming is having its all-time highs. Cannabis sales dropped nearly $100 million last year when compared to 2021. And I strongly suggest the CCB work a lot closer with Nevada operators to ensure and we find additional ways to improve commerce and revenue. As I'm sure we would all welcome kind of a strong lean into the Amsterdam of the West when these consumption lodges grow. Thank you.
Good morning, Dr. Clemis and esteemed members of the board. For the record, my name is Bree Padilla, Bripadilla, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Chamber of Cannabis. I've been a part of this industry and community for more than 6 years as an advocate and a professional, and I am respectfully asking you to establish NCCRs that allow for a process of recourse for the industry when contracts are not honored or enforced. Based on the legislative mandate established by the legislature in NRS 678B.610, it is the public policy of the state that contracts related to the operation of cannabis establishments under this title should be enforceable, and no contract entered into by a licensee or registrant as permitted pursuant to such a license or registration card, or by those who allowed property to be used by a licensee as registrant or as permitted pursuant to such a licensee or registration card, shall be deemed unenforceable on the basis that actions or conduct permitted pursuant to the license or registration card are prohibited by federal law. While we understand that your mandate is limited by statute, we do ask that you consider establishing parameters that are also able to provide recourse for vendors and licensees who are hurting due to their inability to collect payment or enforce their contractual obligations. With businesses closing and industry professionals losing their jobs, there is an urgent need for the CCB to act now. That's why we are asking the CCB to prioritize the concerns and solutions brought forth by the industry today. Thank you.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Danny Baranowski, DANIBARANOWSKI. I am co-founder and vice president of the Chamber of Cannabis and an ex-offender convicted of 2 cannabis felonies when I was just 18 years old for possession of less than 1 gram of cannabis and possession of 1 piece of paraphernalia. For the past 5 years, I have managed sales and marketing for cannabis operators in Nevada. As someone impacted by poor regulations of the past and someone impacting the development of regulations for the future, I support sensible cannabis policy and the continued efforts to update regulations as our industry evolves. As several of my colleagues have mentioned today, we are respectfully asking this board to review and revise burdensome and superfluous regulations as seen in NCCR 12.040, 12.045, and 12.050. While these strict advertising requirements are definitionally in place to protect public health and safety to avoid promoting illegal or harmful products, these restrictions are adding unnecessary threat and penalties to an already overregulated and capital-deprived industry. These unwarranted penalties create turbulent and unsustainable business environments as operators are forced to make difficult and detrimental decisions, counterintuitively affecting public health and safety. One recent example of such was a warning with a hefty fine given to an operator and chamber member for using a cartoon figure in advertising. These threats of fines resulted in layoffs of 2 Nevadans, and nothing is more of a threat to public health and safety than loss of income and household security. Several restrictions in the aforementioned NCCRs are fully illogical, such as the restriction placed on advertising using fruit. This does not protect public health and safety, especially considering cannabis is a plant and in technical botany applications can be classified as a fruit. Furthermore, the stickering and redundant labeling is extremely wasteful and unnecessary. When a cannabis product leaves a cultivation or production facility, a sticker is placed with its product information, appropriate warnings and verbiage. And then when it is received by the retailer, another sticker with that product's information, the same warnings and verbiage is placed on the product. And then once purchased by a consumer, yet another sticker is placed on the product with the product information and the same warnings and verbiage. These stickers are an unnecessary labor burden on businesses without providing additional benefits of protecting public health and safety, and worse, litter our streets. A solution to lessen redundancy and increase effectiveness for all is to create one standardized sticker with a QR code linked to COAs with one printing of all necessary information for public health and safety. Please consider revising these regulations. Thank you.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Abigail Kaufman, ABIGAILKAUFMANN, but you can call me Abby. First off, I'd like to thank the CCB for providing industry stakeholders such as myself with the opportunity to share our concerns and feedback. I am Secretary of the Board of Directors for the Chamber of Cannabis, which many of you may know of from their role in passing legislation for consumption lounges in our state. I'm also an employee of CRB Monitor, which empowers financial institutions to identify and manage cannabis-related risk and opportunity. In this capacity, I am here to express my concerns regarding the status of NRS 226.300, which introduced a closed-loop cannabis banking pilot program run through the Treasury as a result of Assembly Bill 466. This was passed in June 2019 and is set to expire on June 30th of this year. When Zach Connie, our state treasurer, presented to the CCB last April, he outlined the stages of the program, and then in the June 2022 biannual report, expressed that they were still in the process of identifying 5 to 10 business participants and seemingly used that as a barrier to proceed with the implementation of any other stages. In their latest biannual report published on December 1st, 2022, the state treasurer claims that they, and I quote, have seen a lack of appetite from the legal marijuana industry, inasmuch the office has no current plans to seek reauthorization of the program during the 2023 legislative session, end quote. I find it incredibly hard to believe that sufficient efforts were made towards moving this program forward. In a KNPR piece with the director of finance for a Nevada-based cannabis company, he outlines how their business had to bank outside of Nevada and expressed how a lack of access to consolidated payment options caused them to pay upwards of $7,000 to $8,000 per month, essentially just to move cash around. While this is one example, it's not unique, and it illustrates the fact that not only are our banks losing business, but our cannabis businesses are losing money they don't have to and shouldn't have to. When our state treasurer presented the stages of the program to the CCB last April, Member Merritt expressed that this was a step forward for cannabis businesses. And I agree, it could be, which is precisely why I believe stakeholders in Nevada deserve a real explanation and implore the CCB to, in accordance with NRS 678A.450, request that the Treasury provide this body and this industry with a sufficient explanation. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Mark Bozza, M-A-R-K-B-O-Z-Z-A. I've been working in the Nevada cannabis market as a sales director for a few cultivation and production companies for the last 4.5 years. Unfortunately, I was laid off, as Tina mentioned, as part of that group, our colleagues and friends, in December of 2022, and currently seeking a new role like many of us are in this troubled market. I am here as a member of the Chamber of Cannabis and I serve on the Commerce Committee. I'm respectfully asking you to review and consider the mandate established by NRS 678B.635, which relates to the CCB's maintenance of a public testing database. The electric database was to be developed, maintained, and managed by the board. This central database would house the certificate of analysis, otherwise COAs, from the independent labs for all cannabis products from seed to sale in Nevada. This database could be available to the public for access, which could help consumers with the continued education on cannabis products sold in Nevada that was not made available to them before. We could then revise the testing labels to include a QR code that'll send them to the full COA, similar to what Arizona provides on their product labels, per the rules established by SB 1494 in that state. This would eliminate the need for listing the top 3 terpenes, as the COA would provide all terpenes along with the levels of microbials, yeast, mold, pesticides, etc. Having access to the full COA would also give the dispensary staff another tool to educate customers to find the right product for them and ensure the products are safe for consumption. Access to lab results via QR code would also empower long forgotten medical patients who struggle to get accurate and timely information about their medicine. Additionally, this initiative would fall in line with the CCB's third priority, sustainability, as it would reduce the number of printed labels and waste generated by a cannabis sale. Thank you very much.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Darlene Mason. That is DARLENE MASON. I would like to thank the CCB board for providing this time for industry professionals such as myself the opportunity to share our concerns and feedback. I am on the board of directors with the Chamber of Cannabis, which many of you are currently familiar with, as my colleagues have spoken before me. I am also the sales manager for Albert Einstein's, which is a cannabis brand locally here. With that said, I'm here to express my concerns regarding the regulations in CCR 7.050, delivery to consumers. 1, a cannabis sales facility shall not deliver more than 5 ounces, and 2, a medical cannabis sales facility shall not deliver more than 10 ounces of cannabis or any edible product therein. While we in the industry have seen what delivery services has done for retail cannabis businesses, which have been nothing short of productive and lucrative for many cannabis dispensaries. However, with the rising cost of gas, wear and tear on those multiple trips put on delivery vehicles, this current restriction of delivering only 5 ounces of cannabis within a single trip is becoming daunting, costly, and burdensome. This delivery system, though created during COVID-19 to keep dispensaries open and operating, has become a profitable source of income for many dispensaries, as well as having created many additional jobs in the industry. I am respectfully asking the board to consider revision of NCCR 7.050 to make delivering of cannabis to consumers more efficient by way of allowing more than 5 ounces to be delivered in one trip instead of a dispensary having to make multiple trips. For that, I thank you for your time and consideration of this statute. Thank you.
Good morning, board. To Director Climas and Chair Douglas, thank you for this platform, allowing us to have public comment. For the record, my name is Nicole Buffong, NICOLE-BUFFONG. I'm here today representing Minorities for Medical Marijuana as National Community Program Director, as well as Board of Director of the Chamber of Cannabis and co-chair of our Committee for Political Action. Today, I would like to address statute NRS 678B.630. This is a state legislation that gives the CCB parameters that would allow felons to work in the industry. Summarized, the statute states, the board shall develop and implement a process by which a person with a criminal history may petition the board to review the criminal history of the person to determine if the person's criminal history will disqualify the person from obtaining a license or cannabis established agent registration card pursuant to this title. The board may provide instructions to a person who receives a determination of disqualification to remedy the determination of this disqualification. A person may resubmit a petition pursuant to subsection 1 not earlier than 6 months after receiving instructions pursuant to this subsection, if the person remedies the determination of disqualification. It goes on to say a person with a criminal history may petition the board at any time, including without limitation, before obtaining any education or paying any fee required to obtain a license or cannabis establishment agent registration card from the board. The board may impose a fee of up to $50 upon the person to fund the administrative costs in complying with the provisions of this section. The board may waive such fees or allow such fees to be covered by funds from a scholarship or grant. The text of this statute indicates that there is a process and a mandate for the CCB to give people who want to work in the industry and who have a criminal record the ability to petition for the right to work. It also establishes a reporting requirement on these activities. The report is due on January 20th, April 20th, and October 20th of each year. The Chamber has partnered with Senator Dallas Harris to create Senate Bill 33, which would allow felons to work in the industry. We were disheartened when we learned that the CCB already had the power to allow felons to work in the industry. We at the Chamber and M4MM would love to see the CCB implement the parameters for those with a criminal record to work in the industry. Thank you.
Hello, my name is, for the record, is Josh Kassoff, Joshkassoff. And so I'm Josh Kassoff, a Chamber of Cannabis member and a political action committee member for the Chamber of Cannabis, as well as a journalist covering cannabis-related matters. I fully concur and agree with all the points brought up by my very experienced colleagues today, especially regarding Senate Bill 33 that would allow former offenders to work in the Nevada cannabis industry. As someone who's worked in the industry for about 4 years and reported on the industry for over 5 years now, I've seen how unnecessary some of these burdensome regulations and taxes are, especially regarding deliveries and marketing strategies, and the very high taxes that cannabis businesses have to pay simply to operate. As someone whose living comes primarily from the Nevada cannabis industry, I hope that the CCB will work with Nevada cannabis professionals as well as the Lombardo administration to make these regulations less cumbersome and less expensive at the same time, and to ensure that the Nevada cannabis industry can get back to being prosperous again someday. I especially agree with my colleagues when it comes to comments regarding Senate Bill 33 and various other measures that are upcoming in the Nevada legislature. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bianca Young. That's BIANCAYOUNG. I've been a member of the Chamber of Cannabis for the last year and a member of the cannabis industry for the last 5 years. And I've entered the industry as a trimmer, gaining experience all throughout retail, and ultimately secured a role as corporate event planner for the Source dispensaries in the last 6 months. I was one of 8 industry members laid off by one of the largest MSOs in the Nevada industry this past week. And the restrictive regulations that the chamber members before me have proposed changes to impact all levels of the industry, from some of the largest retail facilities to the many industry members serving the community in our stores. I just wanted to make a statement today to provide yet another perspective to show just how this is really a industry-wide implementation issue that we want to go ahead and bring to the table today. And I hope that we really are able to look at these issues, look at these regulations, and make some change with the executive order that was placed. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Douglas, CCB board members, and Executive Director Klimas. I'm Bob Parocco, CEO of Silver Lion Farms. Silver Lion Farms continues to be an interested party in supporting business in White Pine County regarding the county's efforts to secure the medical cannabis license guaranteed to them by law. It's been a very frustrating nearly 18 months now pursuing this matter to resolution. It remains unresolved. Some background as a reminder. After months of discussion with CCB staff, White Pine County formally petitioned the board back in February 2022 to enforce the legislative intent of the shall language in NRS 678B.220, a statute that is very clear that counties with a population of less than 55,000 people shall be granted at least one medical license. The CC board, without fully considering White Pine County's petition, tabled the petition in the February 2022 petition without prejudice pending outcome of a market study. There was no follow-up. The Attorney General office subsequently confirmed that a market study was not required. Even with the formal clarification from the AG's office, White Pine County continued to be ignored in its attempts for follow-up. 2 more petitions from White Pine County followed in the subsequent months with the aim of just getting on the CC board meeting agenda. Unfortunately, these requests were also ignored. Senator Pete Gokachia also intervened on behalf of White Pine County in an attempt to resolve the blockage. Senator Gokachia appeared before this body in person at the September 15th CCB meeting in an attempt to provide clarification to this board. The senator described the legislative intent of NRS 678B.220, the passage of which he participated in. He described that the law was written specifically to ensure that smaller counties would not be put at a disadvantage compared to larger counties. And they could also enjoy the benefits of economic diversification that the cannabis industry provides. Senator Gokachia reinforced that the shall language in the law was not optional, and it clearly states the CCB shall issue a license as defined by law. Senator Gokachia closed with his opinion that should the CC board continue to ignore this obligation under the law, it could be exacerbating the legal liability for the state. White Pine County continued to petition the board unsuccessfully and call and email members of the staff in their request to just get on a CCB board meeting agenda. Finally, White Pine County issue came before this board at your November 2022 meeting. The board agreed to open a licensing round for White Pine County targeting February 2023, just a couple of weeks from now. Timing that would give the CCB staff enough time to refresh its licensing regulations. Communication has been sparse since then. Another petition from White Pine County in early December seeking a formal update of the board's December meeting was again ignored. Last week, White Pine County petitioned CCB staff yet again to add an agenda to today's meeting. And Mike Wiebel, the county manager, was again ignored, and the matter remains unresolved. It appears that White Pine County continues to be just disenfranchised from the legislative intent and guarantee of license issuance as clearly stated in NRS 678B.220. I've read all the regs. I've been unable to find language in AB 533, the law that authorized the founding of the CCB, any language that would allow the CCB to act as a sovereign agency that can choose to operate outside the laws of the state of Nevada. I would appreciate being corrected in this assessment if I'm incorrect. Silverline Farms fully understands that even should this issue get resolved and White Pine County receives the medical cannabis license, Silverline Farms must compete for that license based on merit with other licensed interested parties in the county. All we've been asking for is that Silverline Farms and others be given the opportunity to compete on a fair merit-based footing. Right now, unfortunately, by virtue of choosing to build our business in White Pine County rather than Washoe or Clark counties, we are certainly not competing on a fair footing. Something in the law, something the law specifically was intended to avoid. Chairman Douglas, CCB board members, respectfully, I'm asking you again to remedy this lingering issue and lead the CCB staff to open a medical licensing round in White Pine County. It could be very narrow in nature. There is nothing preventing this action from happening right away. Any further delay would be considered a continuing undermining of the legislative intent for equal treatment for all Nevada counties as provided in NRS 678B.220. It's time. I hope we can get this corrected. Thank you.
Hey, how's it going? My name is Gerardo Gonzalez for the record. I represent Talking and Token and part of the Blacklist. It's more, not really too many questions, more complaints. Through the CCB, I believe we reported over 150 contaminated products that were all over the board, all over the dispensaries. We want to know why was that, if we could be more transparent about that. I do believe somebody had mentioned QR codes on products. Through Cannovative, Trendy, and a few other products that we scan, those barcodes go nowhere. So we were just wondering, the people were wondering who's in charge of that, was to, who takes care of that? Because there is no QR codes that really do anything. And, as far as the recreational market taking over and killing the medical industry by making everybody pay two different rents to have a recreation and a medical license. Today's going to be a pretty good discussion at the CPR. It's going to be talking about why we need a medical program in Nevada for cannabis. What is the purpose of having our grow? I just left a court hearing right now, and protected by a medical patient, which I am. I was able to get out of my ticket and talk to the judge and educate him on how important cannabis is medically. And so he was lucky enough, and I was lucky enough, he let me go. Just a warning, and we discussed on the benefits of being that. And it's just pretty much that. People just want to see more transparency. We are asking, I know you're not in charge of this, but we are the lowest wages in all regulated states. I believe even Utah beats us at starting wages of $50,000 for a bud tender, while we charge pay our bud tenders $13, I believe is the lowest, but probably the maxes. And then we all are also taxing on their tips, which a lot of bud tenders are complaining. A lot of people in the community are complaining, especially because they only make so much, and now their tips are being taxed, and they can't afford living with one job. They got to have two jobs, and that's pretty much it. I just represent the people, and we just want to see more transparency come out of everybody. So thank you for your time. Appreciate being up here.
Hi there, thank you. My name is Tom McLaughlin. I am a member of the Chamber of Cannabis. It's TOMMC, capital LAUGHLIN. Just to give a little bit of background, I have run 2 inventory rooms in the state of Nevada in dispensaries, and in both situations, the CCB inspectors have told me I run the most organized inventory rooms in the state of Nevada. Despite all that, I had to leave my job back in December because my bosses did not understand why there are products that take upwards of 36 hours to get on the floor for sale. And the reason being was due to the so many regulations that I have to follow, all the different rules that I have to follow. And I was at a point where I could not any longer improve the processes because it was the regulations that were holding me back. And so therefore I've had to leave that, and now I'm searching for a new position in the cannabis industry and maybe even outside of it at this point, because it is very difficult out there. Thank you.
Any other public comment in Las Vegas? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Chamber, for what you're doing. Appreciate it. My name is Jason Greninger, JASON, I'm also a member of Chamber of Cannabis, and I'd like to reiterate what my colleagues have said about the needs to change, and specifically about the QR code. It is an important idea and platform to provide that information. It helps reduce the labeling issue, and it also provides a platform for the CCB to provide that COA information that's needed. And it'll also help provide a very helpful access to the medical data needed to help understand what we're doing with cannabis as a medicine. Thank you very much.
Any other public comment in Las Vegas at this time? Seeing none, we move to Carson City for public comment.
Good morning, Executive Director Climas, Chairman Douglas, and fellow board members. For the record, my name is Christine Gomez, CHRISTINEGAMEZ. If your passion, goal, and dream are all the same, then you might find yourself to be one of the luckiest people in the world. It is no coincidence that you're sitting before this many lucky people. Again, my name is Christine Gomez, and I'm a board member of the Chamber of Cannabis and a market leader for just shy of 7 years in Nevada. I've also been part of the Northern Nevada community for the majority of my life. I respectfully ask that you simply listen and act on the matters that have been presented before you today. The legislative mandate established by the legislature, it is the Cannabis Compliance Board's charge to make change and pivot from a theory of what could be our reality to what will be our reality. We've been discussing, debating, and talking long enough, and it's time to show some action. With businesses closing and industry professionals losing their jobs, there's an urgent need for the CCB to act now. This is why we're asking the CCB to prioritize the concerns and solutions brought to you today by the industry. The implementation of numerous regulations, and in some cases, the lack thereof, have been impactful to our industry and not in the way that we would hope. We truly have one of the most dynamic and opportunistic industries in the nation, if not world. The power of our potential for our future should be exciting, inspiring, and hopeful. Yet, the unified voices coming out of the industry have a resounding echo of fear, uncertainty, and a lack of support and not being heard. With the amount of leaders and industry professionals that have shown up to the podium over the last year, let alone today, that alone should be enough to initiate movement and development. The abundance of ache that has been put on the table today can be fixed. We're here to collaborate and work together with you. The knowledge, real-time experience, thoughts, and suggestions are not something that we expect the Cannabis Compliance Board to come up on your own. After all, you aren't in our shoes, day in and day out. But we are committed to standing by your side along the way. We vow to offer support and guidance throughout what is to come. The task at hand isn't a small one, and we have massive amounts of policy to rectify to pave the way and keep our neighboring states with their eyes on our program. What a privilege to create a program that other regulators mimic and promote what we have created. To have a diverse and inclusive space for all, a space where transparency and proper value on taxation, an environment where your contracts are held as a bond, an arena where packaging is sustainable, current, and logical, a stage where advertising and educating about smart consumption and products aren't shadowed behind an alcohol or casino billboard, a pathway where I can walk into a bank and not have to remove my work badge just so I can make a deposit. These are not extreme requests, and most definitely within the scope of your capabilities. We are the only industry that has to fight this hard for a platform for fair delivery regulations, for a space where products have accessible digital lab results, not just the mandated portions required on a label. An industry for those who have paved the way in a legacy market are blacklisted from doing work that I personally get a benefits package included with. You see, this is not only our passion, but it's our goal and dream too. And while your intentions may not have been filled with malice, it is your duty to adopt regulations that do not cause undue harm. We have undeniably caused harm to our very own industry with the execution of regulations and policy. And while what is done, we do not have to accept that as our future. So let's make it right. Let me take a moment to highlight NRS 67B650. It's in reference to regulations and how Cannabis Compliance Board should be carrying these out. In Section 3A, there is a clause about imposing an undue burden on cannabis establishments. And this is real. We need to work on reversing the damage now. What we're asking of you is to stop all undue harm. Let's create logical statewide beneficial operations with the projection for greater commerce, greater justice, and greater community. And it just so happens that these are the three pillars that the Chamber of Cannabis was founded upon. You all truly have the authority to create greatness, and in fact, we know you can. But the legacy in front of you is one that does not have time as a luxury. Brands are dying. Professionals, great professionals, are being smothered out. We cannot let Nevada's pioneering industry be known as a business graveyard. The Chamber has continued to be an amplified voice, and I give you permission to refer to me on a first name basis. Just call me Christine. Why? Because the CCB and I are going to be seeing and hearing a lot from each other. You see, I'm just Christine standing here today, but what you don't see is the hundreds of members and dozens of businesses who we represent as the Chamber. They're the distributors, producers, cultivators, retail and lounge establishments, and all of the people inside of them. We have stepped up to represent a very loud voice. We have zero plans to wave that white flag. Our voices, the ones who have paved the path, are not going to be silenced. After all, we aren't just a bunch of potheads. We are a united front of stone professionals, and we will continue to push for development and growth and deliver it to you on a silver platter. Or should I say, a silver rolling tray. Thank you for your time.
Other public comment, Carson City.
Hello, my name is Will Adler and I'm representing the Sierra Cannabis Coalition. I just wanted to briefly comment on the hold on products that was sent out last week and sort of continued this week as well. But just generally, I think it would benefit Nevada as an industry and sort of benefit us all to add pesticides to the docket of things we would talk about in sort of a lab testing reform or in a upcoming workshops that we may be holding on lab testing, because some comments I heard were that the products used were allowable in other states, but weren't allowable in Nevada, and that it may have caused some issues of clarification. But the list is a list, and enforcement is needed. But I do think it's a topic fresh on people's minds and should be added to some sort of docket for talking about total lab reform. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else in Carson City? With that, we will then close our first public meeting. Public comment of the day. We'll move our agenda then to item number 2, meeting minutes for consideration approval of December 13th, 2022 Cannabis Compliance Board meeting minutes. If the board has reviewed them, if we can get a motion or necessary corrections in a motion.
Mr. President, excuse me, Mr. Chair, Jerry Merritt for the record. I would move that we approve the minutes.
We have a motion for approval. Do we have a second?
This is Member Nylander. I would second, Mr. President.
Been moved and seconded. Don't want that job. Any discussion or amendments? Then all in favor of acceptance of minutes, please say aye.
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 It's carried unanimously. That moves us to our consent agenda. The first part is complaints. We have 2 items.
Thank you, Chair. This is Tyler Climas for the record. Item 3A on the agenda concerns 2 complaints for disciplinary action. Pursuant to NRS 678A510, the Attorney General has reviewed these violations and has recommended proceeding with disciplinary action. I'll be requesting board approval to proceed with each of these 2 disciplinary actions, and if approved, I will then authorize service of the complaints. Once the board approves proceeding with disciplinary action, service will proceed within a reasonable time, and all complaints will be filed and posted online. As to Respondent A, the complaint will allege violations of NCCR Regulation 4, Regulation 5, and Regulation 6. As to Respondent B, the complaint will allege violations of NCCR Regulation 4 and Regulation 6. And with that, Chair, I will turn it back to you.
We've heard that from the director as to items 1 and 2 under subset A, complaints. And pursuant to the rules that have been put in place by the legislature, the board is not aware of what is contained within them. This is procedural only. Do we have a motion for approval so this can go forward?
Mr. Chair, since I got it right this time, Jerry Merritt, I move for approval.
We have a motion for approval of proposed disciplinary actions A and B. Do we have a second as to that motion?
This is Member Nylander. I would second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Member Merritt, any opposed? And for the record, Member Merritt, did you say aye or did
Yes,
you?
I definitely said aye.
Excuse me. Member Durrett,
Aye.
and it carries unanimously as to A. Item B is consideration for approval to extend final inspection deadlines. We have a number up for approval this morning, sub-items 1 through 9, which would be Deep Roots Harvest, Nevada Organic Remedies, Essence Entities, is it Concherium Entities, Polaris Wellness Center, Miller Farms, Green Mart of Nevada, Clear River, Eureka, New Gen Farms. It was also stated for the board members that if you had any questions as to any one of those items, we could handle it separately. If not, we can approve the extension of those items to February of 23, if that is your pleasure, in one motion. And Chief Gilbert, I threw out February, February of next year. What date would you prefer on that to make it uniform with the others?
The board for the previous extensions has extended them to November 5th of 2023.
November 5th of 2023. Okay, thank you for that correction. Board members, having heard that, what is the pleasure? Do you wish to take any of those items 1 through 9 separately, or will you take them in one motion?
Mr. Chairman, this is Member Nylander. I did not have any concerns or questions on these items. I do not wish to hold any of them out. I'm prepared to move forward.
Thank you. Any other board member wish to weigh in? If not, if we can have a motion for approval of the continuances of the licensing to November of 2023.
Mr. Chairman, this is Member Nylander. I would move to approve items number 3B 1 through 9 as stated on the agenda, and as you have read into the record, those approvals would be set to expire on November 5th of 2023.
We have a motion for approval of the continuation license. Do we have a second?
Member Merritt, I will second.
It's been moved in second. Any additional discussion as to these items 1 through 9? Hearing none, all in favor of the extension of the license for the period so stated, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Any abstentions? Those matters carry. Those licenses are extended to November of 2023 per the motion. That then moves us to item number 4, request for transfers of interest. Nevada Botanical Science, Inc., first item on our agenda this morning.
Good morning. Chair Douglas, Member Merritt, Member Nylander, Member Durrett, and Member Young. For the record, I'm David Staley, Division Chief of Investigations for the CCB. I'm here to present agenda item number 4, which consists of 5 transfer of interest or TOI applications. Item A is the TOI application by Nevada Botanical Sciences, Inc. TOIs 22-00002 through 22-00006 were filed requesting approval of the sale of its cultivation, production, and distribution licenses to Mason Cave and his company, Floret Nevada LLC. No areas of concern were identified during the investigation into this TOI application. I am available for any questions, and my understanding is that Kurt Conkey and Mason Cave are available to address any questions you may have as well. With that, Chair Douglas, I will turn this item back to you.
Thank you. On behalf of the licensee,
On the licensee, sorry, I'm the other one.
I'm the licensee, Kurt Conkey.
addressing the board, please.
I'm Mason Cave. I'm with Floret, Nevada. So we're the acquirer of the licenses. I'm available for any questions.
Mr. Cave, the only thing that kind of caught my attention was the relationship with the lender in this case and some of their ask within it in terms of an A part and a B part, the A of licensing you as you've put forth, and then some conditions set forth. There's just a minor concern. I don't think it's anything to hold up the process, but as to some of the conditions they're setting forth, would you care to comment on that?
I think the two conditions you might be talking about, I know one of them I'm aware, which is that we bring in an operator. That particular lender has a great relationship and past history with an operator that ran a publicly traded company out of Arizona. And because of that relationship, and I actually also have a relationship with that individual, worked with them for a period of time, and I'm more of a finance background operations guy. And he was more of a hands-on operator. They wanted to make sure I had somebody in tow as my lender to actually conduct the actual day-to-day operations. And he's agreed to be part of that. And I believe through the underwriting process, he's gotten all his cards he's required to get, et cetera.
Thank you. Other questions by board members?
This is Member Nylander. Good morning, Mr. Cave.
Good morning.
Note that you are a CPA, but you also have some broad-based experience in the industry. If you could just give us a little bit of an update on your background.
Yes. So I'm CPA, mostly based in real estate until about 7 years ago, in which time actually I was managing a real estate portfolio in which some growers started having interest in one of our buildings. At that point in time, we looked into it at the company I was at the time, and decided we were going to go into the marijuana business in Arizona. So started a 10,000 square foot grow in Kingman, Arizona. Quickly moved up to a 50,000 square foot grow. We liquidated that asset in 2018. It's still under operation today in the Air Park in Kingman. And since then, my focus has been on products on the production side, specifically mostly concentrates and extraction. And so we're looking to take that expertise and move that into Nevada and specifically this asset in Reno.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's a very impressive background. I think you're going to be a great addition, you and your company, to the industry here in Nevada. So I did not have any questions or concerns on this application.
Any other board member wish to inquire or licensee or staff? If no one has any unreadiness, do we have a motion then?
Mr. Chairman, this is Member Nylander. I would move to approve item number 4A as reflected on the agenda.
Member
We have a
Merritt, I
motion.
would second.
We have a motion for approval and a second. Any additional questions or concerns? Hearing none, all in favor
Aye.
of approval?
Aye.
Aye. Carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That moves us to item number B under section 4, Tahoe Hydroponics Company, LLC.
Chairman, this is Member Durrett. Can I give a disclosure on the Harvest Foundation item? Because I think I'm supposed to do it at the top of these agenda items. Or would you rather I wait until we get to that agenda item?
Please say again.
I need to give a disclosure on the Harvest Foundation agenda item. Would you rather I wait until we get to that item? I think I was supposed to do it at the top of this section. So
We
before
have,
the last.
let's wait till we get to that item. That's D under this subsection. We're at B right now, the Tahoe Hydroponics Company. If we have representatives of that licensee present or on Zoom.
Chair Douglas, members of the board, I'm David Staley, Division Chief of Investigations. Item B are TOI applications by Tahoe Hydroponics Company, LLC. TOIs 21068 and 2100029 were filed requesting approval of internal restructuring of existing ownership for estate planning purposes, followed by the sale of Tahoe Hydroponics and its cultivation and distribution licenses to Air Wellness, Inc. In addition, Air has requested waivers pursuant to NCCR 5.112 and 5.125 of the requirements of NCCR 5.110 regarding a review of all owners. Air has adequately addressed the items required in NCCR 5.112 and 5.125 to allow the board to approve such waivers. Staff suggests that if approved, the board limit Air's waivers to expire on its next agenda date. No areas of concern were identified during the investigation into this TOI application. I am available for any questions, and my understanding is that Mark Bruno, Ray Chavone, Jonathan Sandelman, and Alicia Ashcraft are available to address any questions you may have as well. With that, Chair Douglas, I'll turn this item back to you.
With that, we seem to have two attorneys at the podium this morning, so if we can have representations on behalf of the applicants.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Amanda Connor on behalf of Tahoe Hydroponics, the sellers in this transaction, and my client or the company representative, Mark Bruno, is available via Zoom.
And good morning, Chair Douglas, Director Klimas, members of the board. Alicia Ashcraft of the law firm of Armstrong Teasdale on behalf of Air Wellness, the buyer in this transaction. And by way of Zoom, the Director of Compliance, Clint Cates, is also available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Board members, any questions or of either staff or opponents in this case?
So just to clarify for the record, this is just a transfer into basically a trust to restructure, but it's also for estate planning reasons.
Member Nylander, Amanda Connor for the record. There is two transactions at play here. The first, you're correct, is the members of Tahoe Hydro are doing estate planning and putting their interests in the trust. Then there's a second transaction where they're proposing to sell to Air Wellness.
Yeah, I did not have any questions about Air either. They have been in operation in a number of states, and everything seems to be in good order. So I didn't have any further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Other board members wish to inquire, or are you satisfied at this point?
I'm good.
All right, not hearing any further comment. Can we have a motion on the floor that also addresses the request for waiver?
Mr. Chairman, this is Member Nylander. I'd move for approval of agenda item 4B. As stated on the agenda, there would be a condition that the approved waivers of NCCR 5.110 pursuant to the other provisions in Reg 5 would be conditioned to expire on such agenda date as Air Wellness's next TOI application is considered by the board.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Member
Young. This is Member Young. I'll second that.
Thank you, Member Young. Any further discussion? And just to be clear, that motion does cover the necessary waivers. With that being said, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Matter carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. That takes us to item number C, My Life Organics, Inc.
Chair Douglas, members of the board, for the record, this is David Staley, Division Chief of Investigations. Item C are TOI applications by My Life Organics, Inc. TOIs number 2200054 and 2200001 were filed requesting approval for Neil Bartoletta to acquire 25% ownership of My Life Organics that he did not already own from Sean Christopher and Brian Ruggles. This internal structuring will be followed by the proposed acquisition of My Life Organics cultivation licenses by Dune Operating Holding LLC. Dune Operating Holding will be held 30% by Dune Investment Holdings LP and 70% by Bartoletta through My Life Organics. Future operations of the cultivation licenses will be managed through PH Group Holdings, Inc. and Dune Holding Management, LLC, while the investors behind Dune Investment Holdings, LP and Neil Bartoletta expect to remain passive. No areas of concern were identified during the investigation into this TOI application. I am available for any questions, and my understanding is that Connor Yee, Joshua Kahn, Neil Bartoletta, Nathan Green, and Omar Strum are available to address any questions you may have as well. With that, Chair Douglas, I'll turn this item back to you.
Thank you. Representations from the licensee.
Good morning, Chair Douglas, Cannabis, members of the board. My name is Jeremy Holmes, and I represent both parties to this transaction. Here present with me is Neil Bartoletta, owner of My Life Organics, and Sturm, who is the CPO of one of the managing companies. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer.
Thank you. Members of the board, any questions you wish to ask of our licensees or prospective licensees?
This is Member Nylander. I just was curious to get a little more background on Dune, sort of where it came from and how it's going to sit when this is over.
Omar's background.
Sure. So Dune.
Identify yourself for the record, otherwise they get mad at us.
Yeah. So my name's Omar Sturm.
Thank you.
So Dune is formed between Perfect Harvest, which is a group that originated out of Washington. We have experience operating in a few different states, and it's also comprised of the investors that funded the project.
Okay, understood. And Mr. Bartoletta, if we could get a little bit of background, I understand that you've been involved in a number of other businesses, including creating Justin Capital.
Yes, sir.
And are you still actively involved in that?
No, I retired about 5 years ago. I'm 76, and my days are numbered. I'm trying to wind down a little bit. So I've been in numerous businesses.
Yeah, well, it's a very impressive background. I'm familiar with that company and others you've been involved in. And you and I are in the same spot. I'm trying to wind down too.
Maybe we should do something together.
Let's do that. Something not stressful though.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I didn't have any further questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other board member wish to raise any inquiry? Hearing no additional questions, then we have a motion for approval of the transfer.
Mr. Chairman, this is Member Nylander. I would move for approval of agenda item number 4C as stated on the agenda.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Member Young, I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Matter carries. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That takes us to item number D, G3 Labs LLC.
Chairman Douglas, members of the board, for the record, I am David Staley, Division Chief of Investigations for the CCB. Item D is a TOI application by G3 Labs LLC. TOI 22000018 was filed requesting various changes to existing members' ownership percentages that will result in Carol and Thomas Morgan leaving G3 Labs, Chow Sung Tung and Ronald Sargent increasing their ownership, while the last two owners, Alfred Allen and Angel Panette, will remain the same. No areas of concern were identified during the investigation into this application. I am available for any questions, and my understanding is that Chow Sung Tung, Ronald Sargent, and Alicia Ashcraft are available to address any questions you may have as well. With that, Chair Douglas, I'll return this item to you.
Just noting the report that we have, there was an area of concern, but not as to the party that's before us, but as to THF, and that's going to be handled somewhere else.
Sir, are you referring to the withdrawal harvest?
Yes.
There is no areas of concern with the G3 TOI application.
So Mr. Staley, just to confirm, this is really just the majorities buying out minority interests.
Yes, Mr. Member Nylander, David Staley, for the record, that's our understanding.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Douglas. If it's permissible, I'll go ahead and make our appearances now. Thank you. Alicia Ashcraft of the law firm of Armstrong Teasdale on behalf of the applicant G3. With me is Dr. Tung. We're happy to answer any questions you might have on this application. Again, as Chief Staley indicated, it's simply a reshuffling of the ownership interests among existing owners. No one new, and two people are exiting the company at this time.
Thank you. And I withdraw my prior remarks. I just shuffled some pages and hit the wrong page. And so we're in good shape with no areas of concern as this applicant. Do we have any questions or need for any comment as licensee? If
I had
there's
none,
no
Mr.
question,
None.
with that, then can we have a motion for approval?
This is Member Young. I'll move that we approve agenda item 4D, the TOI regarding G3 Labs.
We have a motion from Member Young. Do we have a second?
Member Merritt, I was second.
We have a motion and second for approval of item D as to G3 Labs. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approval, please say aye.
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 Matter carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
That moves us to item number E, Harvest Foundation LLC. And while they're coming forward, Member Durrett, you wish to?
Yeah, thank you. Member Durrett, for the record, I have previously disclosed on this matter that I had in the past was retained as an expert witness in a case in which the Harvest Foundation was the defendant. I was retained by a firm that was representing the plaintiff. I was retained prior to being appointed to the Cannabis Compliance Board. So I'll be abstaining from any matters relating to this licensee.
Thank you for that. This matter's on for.
Chair Douglas, members of the board, for the record, I'm David Staley, Division Chief of Investigations. Item E is a TOI application by the Harvest Foundation LLC, which holds medical and adult use cultivation licenses in Las Vegas. TOI number 19053 was filed requesting approval from MariMed to purchase the Harvest Foundation. However, in response to a complaint alleging various violations of chapters 678A through 678B of the Nevada Revised Statutes and numerous Nevada cannabis compliance regulations, the board approved a summary suspension of the Harvest Foundation on November 18th, 2021, and later approved Kevin Singer as cannabis receiver on September 27th of 2022. On December 14th of 2022, Singer requested approval to withdraw the TOI application without prejudice. There are no areas of concern regarding the TOI and subsequent withdrawal. Any additional areas of concern regarding the Harvest Foundation involve the complaint and subsequent summary suspension and will be addressed in a pending settlement, which will be presented to the board at a future agenda. I am available for any questions, and my understanding is that John Savage and Kevin Singer are available to address any questions you may have as well.
Thank
With that, Chair Douglas, I'll turn this item back to you.
Representations, please.
Morning, Chair Douglas, Limas, Board, John Savage, on behalf of Kevin Singer. Mr. Singer is also.
Questions by members of our board.
This is Member Nylander. Mr. Singer, it looks like you've had a buyer you're negotiating with to dispose of the asset, but that didn't work out.
Kevin Singer, the district court receiver, board member Nylander. Yes, this buyer was in place prior to my appointment as the receiver. We obviously approached them to see if we could complete that sale or move it forward, but the buyer didn't want to move forward. So that's why we're bringing this motion today to terminate.
Okay. How are things going in terms of trying to resolve it? Do you have other prospects in line? I don't want to ask you anything confidential, but
No. Kevin Singer, the district court receiver. No, nothing's confidential. Everything since I work for the judge, it's all very transparent and out in the open. We need to get an authorization to be able to move the license forward to sell it. And we have a motion on calendar right now to allow us to begin that process.
okay, thank you for that update. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have any further questions. I think the request is to withdraw. We would need it to be without prejudice, though, so that they could easily come back once they do get clear for a buyer. So, and then the other disciplinary action will take its course, however that goes with the Attorney General's office. So I didn't have any further questions or concerns.
Thank you.
And member 900, that is correct. The withdrawal would need to be without prejudice because a sale is contemplated in our negotiations.
Yeah, thank you for that, Chris.
Any other board member wish to make an inquiry? If not, then can we have a motion for approval of the request to withdraw without prejudice?
Mr. Chairman, this is Member Nylander. With respect to item 4E, the Harvest Foundation, I would move that we grant the withdrawal and that be without prejudice.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Member Young, I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any nays? And extension, abstaining? Matter carries.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, Your Honor, Chair, I voted yes, but I need to change that to abstaining. It was a reflex, sorry about that.
Thank you. That moves us to item number 5, matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Next up is items under Roman numeral 5, request for consideration of approval of management service agreements.
Chair Douglas, members of the board, for the record, I'm David Staley, Division Chief of Investigations for the CCB. I'm here to present agenda item number 7, which consists of 3 management service agreements or MSAs. Item A is an MSA between Physis One LLC and Greenbuds LLC. This MSA has been entered into in relation to the proposed acquisition of Physis One by Greenbuds. CCB staff have reviewed the agreement and found the relationship between the parties appropriate. I am available for any questions, and my understanding is Clayton Kelly Hurst and Delbert Cannon are present today to address any questions you may have as well. With that, Chair Douglas, I'll turn this item back to you.
Do we have our parties present or counsel for the parties?
Well, and while they're approaching, Mr. Chairman, this is Member Nylander. Just have to correct Chief Staley. He called this as item 7, but it's actually not item 7. It's item 5. So just to make sure we don't have to go back and fix the minutes.
Mr. Staley has a hot lunch date, so that's why we're already at 7.
Of course he does.
Thank you, Member Nylander. So if you guys could please speed this up a little bit. It is indeed item number 7, and my understanding is
5.
5. We'll try this one more time. This is item number 5. And I believe I was just informed that Mr. Hurst is appearing by Zoom.
If we have him on the line.
I don't believe we've joined yet, so if you want to trail it maybe to the end.
Let's trail it because I have not a concern, but a question going with this. Let's move then to item number B, healthcare operations, enterprises.
Yes, sir. Chairman Douglas, members of the board, David Staley, Division Chief of Investigations. This is item number 5B. Item B are 2 MSAs between Healthcare Options for Patient Enterprises LLC and Think NNV, NV LLC, and Green Monkey Euphoria Corporation. The Think agreement provides for Think to provide management services to Hope. The Green Monkey agreement is a production agreement, but Green Monkey will own the canning manufacturing equipment until a portion of the proposed sales pay it off. As a result, CCB staff determined the agreement should require review. CCB staff have reviewed the agreement and found the relationship between the parties appropriate. I am available for any questions, and my understanding is that Howard Rubin is present today to address any questions you may have as well. With that, Chair Douglas, I'll turn this item back to you.
Thank you. Sir, if you'd state for the record your name and any comments you wish to make.
My name is, excuse me, my name is Dr. Howard Rubin, R-U-B-I-N. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, I have no comment. I believe all the reviews and questions were requested and answered. I had reached out to Mr. Staley and sent him all our documentation. And, I have no comment at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Staley, there was a note of an area of concern relating to ThinQ and their kind of business status, not as to the primary license holder.
Chairman Douglas, David Staley for the record. We had identified a potential area of concern regarding Think as it was in a default status with the Nevada Secretary of State's office. Brianna Martinez, Think's attorney, is working to resubmit its filing with the Nevada Secretary of State's office. We have not received confirmation that it has happened yet, but they're in the process of rectifying that.
Can I respond to that? I have the documents for Think to bring them into good standing.
Mr. Chairman, this is Member Nylander. Mr. Staley, did you say Brianna Martinez is representing Thin?
Just one moment, Member Nylander.
Brianna Martinez is our is with Kemper Kroll, and who is our law firm.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make a disclosure then. I'm of counsel with the law firm Kemper Kroll. I am I don't have any pecuniary interest in the firm. I don't have any fiduciary interest. I simply share office space with them. And because I'm a gaming licensee, I can't be involved in cannabis at all. So, but Miss Martinez does work for the law firm, but where I don't really, I'm of counsel, so I don't think it would affect my judgment on this matter. So I tend to go forward, but it's just a disclosure. I did not know that anyone from that law firm was involved, but as I have done in the past, I would simply disclose that, but I don't think it would affect a reasonable person in my position because I don't have any financial interest in the law firm. It's just basically an office sharing arrangement. So
Duly noted for the record.
Chair Douglas, for the record, David Staley, Chief of Investigations. Dr. Rubin has provided me with the information confirming that Think is filed and in good standing with the Nevada Secretary of State's office.
Thank you. And thank you for providing that information to the state. With that, any other questions? If not, can we have a motion to approve the operating agreement that's been management agreement that's been put forth as to this item?
Mr. Chairman, this is Member Nylander. I move to approve item 5B as read into the record.
A motion for approval as to this item that's been placed before us. Do we have
Member
a
Young, I'll
second?
second that.
Moved and seconded. Any additional discussion or questions? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Matter carries unanimously. That
Thank
takes
you.
us to item number C.
Chair Douglas, members of the board, for the record, David Staley, Division Chief of Investigations. Item C is an MSA between Blossom Group LLC and GATA Distribution LLC. The agreement provides for GATA Distribution to provide management services, but also includes an option to purchase Blossom. CCB staff have reviewed the agreement and found that the relationship between the parties is appropriate. I am available for any questions, and my understanding is that Hamid Raushan, Aram Danesh, Paul Thomas, and Adam Fulton are present today to address any questions you may have as well. With that, Chair Douglas, I'll turn this item back to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We have our representations and any comments you wish to make.
Adam Fulton with Jennings and Fulton. I'm here on behalf of the entities, and we have with us Hamid Roshan, who's available for questions via Zoom, and Mr. Paul Thomas for GATA Distribution, who is here as well. We're happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding this agreement or anything else.
Members of the board, any questions that you wish to pose this morning?
This is Member Nylander. Good morning, Mr. Fulton.
Good morning.
Hey, so it looks like Mr. Thomas, obviously, he's previously been licensed and has been operating in different capacities. And so he's has had his card for a number of years now.
That is correct.
Okay. It looks
He
like
operated, and just a little background on him as well, is he operated Just Quality, was an owner of that, which was a fully integrated facility, one of the first ones in the state actually, which was then way back in the day transferred, that dispensary was transferred to MedMen. Mr. Thomas has had experience from the very beginning up until now in multiple licenses and operations throughout the state.
because it looks like the staff did identify not an area of concern, but the fact that he did operate a little bit under this agreement before it came before the staff.
That is correct, but I was very clear with my clients, and he operated as an employee of Blossom. He got an agent card as Blossom and has not operated under this management agreement until this board approves it.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I just wanted to put that on the record, that just so there's no concerns going forward. I don't have any.
Excellent question.
I did
board
not have
members?
any other questions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas, the only thing that gave me a little pause is a notation that you were involved because of your expertise in operating a number of other cannabis businesses. Is that correct?
I don't, your question?
In terms of you're also managing, so to speak, other cannabis operators' businesses?
I have ownership, yeah.
Because there is, from my standpoint, just whether or not the management is moves over because of control and having too much interest in cannabis. That doesn't seem to be the case, but that was my only concern. So with that, unless there's other questions, do we have a motion for approval of this agreement?
Mr. Chairman, this is Member Nylander. I move for approval of the management services agreement with respect to the relationship between the parties on item 5C.
We have a motion for approval of management services agreement. Do we have a second?
Member Young, I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? Matter carries unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members, and thank you to staff again for their help. We appreciate it.
Before we leave this area, do we have our A item? So we'll return to that.
Chair Douglas, for the record, David Staley, Division Chief Investigations. So I guess we're looking to see if the individual is on by Zoom. Is that what you're?
I am.
Ah, beautiful. I'll read the item back into the record if you prefer.
Yeah, that's fine.
Chair? Okay. Item A is an MSA between Physis One LLC and Greenbuds LLC. This MSA has been entered into in relation to the proposed future acquisition of Physis One by Greenbuds. CCB staff have reviewed the agreement and found the relationship between the parties is appropriate. I am available for any questions, and my understanding is that Clayton Kelly Hurst is present today via Zoom to address any questions you may have as well. With that, Chair Douglas, I'll return this item back to you.
Representations for the record, sir? Our Zoom?
Yep.
Can we have your name for the record?
Clayton Kelly Hurst.
The only concern I had was the profit breakdown, and I know there's a wish to acquire the business. How is that coming along, and do we feel that that might be completed within a year?
Yes, so we already submitted the TOI, and I don't have the reference number handy, but that was submitted a couple of weeks ago. So as soon as we can get it before the board, then we're ready to move forward with that.
Other board members' inquiries? Hearing no other inquiries. My question was posed because if there's be a abnormal delay, I would have asked for a year condition, but there doesn't seem to be one with that. So I have no objections of this matter going forward with the normal approval. But that was just my thoughts. So do we have a motion for approval at this time?
Mr. Chairman, this is Member Nylander. I would move for approval of item number 5A. Physis One as read into the record. No conditions. Mr. Chairman, right?
That's correct. We have a motion for approval, no conditions. We have a second.
Member Merritt, I move to second Member Merritt, I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded for approval of management services agreement. No additional questions? If none, all in favor of this, please say aye.
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 Any nays? Any abstentions? Matter carries unanimously.
Thank you.
That moves us to item number 6A, Wenger.
Thank you, Chair, members of the board. Steve Gilbert, Chief of Administration, for the record. Agenda item 6A consists of a petition submitted by Wenger LLC. Wenger was issued a conditional adult use distribution license T090 on August 21st, 2017 within the Clark County jurisdiction. Wenger's first extension request went to the board at its May 24th, 2022 meeting, and it was granted an extension to February 5th, 2023 to receive a final inspection. In the first request, Wenger indicated it had a potential buyer for the distribution license, and the two parties had come to an agreement in which the buyer would take over ownership of T090. On December 7th, 2022, Wenger submitted a second request to extend the February 5th, 2023 deadline for final inspection. In the extension request, it indicated a new party had been secured to purchase the license. Wenger provided a draft purchase agreement and their desire to complete the TOI process if the extension is granted. Wenger also provided a timeline of its efforts to move forward with the license. Staff have communicated to Wenger that there are some areas of concerns and have asked that the licensee be prepared to discuss its progress at the board. Wenger's efforts have gone towards finding a potential buyer for the license rather than meeting the requirements of perfecting the license by receiving a final inspection and becoming operational. I'm available for any questions, and Steve Wenger is present today to address any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Wenger. Before you go forward, I have a disclosure. I was contacted by someone who was considering a possible business venture and wanted to know the viability of your existing license. So I disclose that for the record. Go ahead, sir.
Steve Wenger, Wenger LLC, that's Wenger. My original agreement was with the purchaser of my cultivation and processing licenses. The transfer was supposed to take place in 2019, and there was some delay with the legislation or with the legality of the distribution license at the time, and they were held back until the end of 2019. It was not included in my transfer of interest for my cultivation and processing, and I believe that there was a clerical error, and this license was assigned to another entity, oddly enough, to the buyer of those licenses. And in order for me to file a transfer of interest, it had to be transferred back to me so that I could transfer it to them. That's why I came to you for the extension last May. In the meantime, I brought everything current, paid the fees, and my buyer, the Watson Group, ghosted me and decided that they were no longer interested in it. For the months of August and September, I met with a number of prospective buyers, cultivation owners, and trying to locate a prospective buyer to reclaim my investment on this license. I've come up with a group, a local attorney, and a good standing party that I've known for many, many years, E&J Purveyors. They are very, very familiar with the transportation industry, and I think that they would be a great fit. We'll leave that up to you. The reason that the transfer of interest didn't go through in this time, the purchase agreement was contingent upon my getting an extension of time. When I contacted Dave Staley last fall, he indicated that there was a 6 to 9 month period to get assigned an agent, and we didn't feel that that would be enough. Obviously, expiring in February, there wouldn't be enough time to carry forward. So I'm requesting a 12-month extension so that my buyers can submit it within the next 2 weeks, our transfer of interest, and get that fulfilled before the license expires.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions by members of the board?
This is Mr. Chairman, this is Member Nylander. Mr. Wenger, you indicated that this other group has retained counsel and they're close to getting their applications in order.
Yes, sir. I believe Eva Seegerbloom is representing that group, and that group is here today. It would be Esther Rodriguez and Jason Smith, and they're here in the audience if you'd like to confirm anything with them.
No, I just wanted to clarify that. That's sort of where you're at. Thanks for the update on that.
Thank you, sir.
I didn't have any other questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Questions by other board members? If there's no additional questions, what's the pleasure?
Mr. Chairman, this is Member Nylander. I'm prepared to go forward. We've been limiting these to the date of, I guess now it's November 5th. So Mr. Wenger, and I don't know how the board's going to go on this, but if I'm prepared to go forward, but you'd have to come back and get another extension in November. If you can't get the TOI, if the parties and the board can't get the TOI done by then. But my understanding is, we are up to date on these backlogs we had from the TOIs. So going forward, I think it's going to be a quicker process. But Mr. Chairman, that's my thoughts, that we would limit it to what we've done with the others. And while I recognize that staff raised a concern that the owner of the license has been focused on selling it rather than trying to get it into operation. But I'm satisfied with the explanation today. But that's just where I'm at. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We have a motion then for approval of the extension to November. Do we have a second?
Member Young, I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Matter carries unanimously. That's extension to November 5th.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, board. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate y'all.
That will take us to finally item number 7. Brief from the chair and the executive director. The only comment, we are aware from the chair standpoint, aware of the economic conditions out there. It's nice to read in the paper at one point that things are getting better, but it's also frightening to see the various layoffs that are occurring in our businesses across the state. We are in the process of reviewing the January 23rd, 2023 memorandum from the Office of the Governor in terms of what we can do as to regulations. The request of looking at regulations that can be stricken as well as possible new regulations and taking action on those things that were kind of in our queue. So we are trying to get guidance from that office. And also at the same time, helping the parties that are trying to look to go forward with the lounge licensing. That's the limitation I have to say today.
Chair Tyler Clements, for the record, I just add, given that we were not able to hold the Cannabis Advisory Commission meeting last week, there was an item on the creation of a couple new subcommittees that I thought was important enough to just note for the record today. We will be creating two subcommittees coming out of the CAC. One will examine ways to combat the illicit or unregulated market, which is obviously something of concern to many different parties here. And the second subcommittee will be one to study and ultimately make recommendations to the board around establishing a pilot program for emerging small cannabis businesses. This is something that is laid out in statute and required. So we look forward to moving forward with coming up with some recommendations and for the board to begin to consider those. So that's all I've got.
With that, then we next note item number 8, next meeting date of February 28th, 2023. And board members, if you have items for future discussion, please contact our executive director or myself. And with that, our second round, item number 10 of public comment for the record. Here in Las Vegas, we are open for public comment, if any. I won't ask twice. Additional public comment in Carson City.
Does not appear to be any public comment in Carson City.
With that, then item number 11 is adjournment. We are in adjournment. Thank everyone very much.
Thank you.